Okay, today we're going to be learning about baking. High poly to low poly baking for the Sims 4 conversions and any other thing else you might use it for. And while it is unintuitive, unlike anything else you've done in Blender, it is pretty easy once you get it figured out. Now, to begin the bake, first you need an object. And we're going to be using this one that I made here. This is it. It's got some geometry on it. It's real geo. As you can see, it's got, actual elevation. It's not bump mapped. It's not displaced. It's actual geo. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing diffuse bakes and normal bakes. Now, diffuse means pretty much just this, the color. It's this, the color. This is your diffuse. Right there, it's pretty much just a color. Let's see what the color will be. And that's your diffuse, right? And then your normal is usually for some form of, it's a displacement map of a type. It extends the edges of your model beyond its model. It adds geo where there's none. It allows you to make a low poly look a lot more detailed and have edging and depth and ridges, basically topology that isn't actually there. And you don't have to spend processing or computational time on it to the same degree that you would with geo. So let's pop back into our layout and let's look at how you do this. First, you need a low poly version of a mesh to send it to. And since we're using a cube, I use a cube because it's very easy. We're just going to use another cube. Okay. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to go into edit mode, make sure everything's selected by hitting A, and go up and unwrap your mesh. You want to UV map it. So I usually like to go into shading, switch this over to UV mapper, right? And we're going to make a new, well, this one, diffuse map. And we don't need to make it 4096. How about we do 2048? Yeah, 2048 sounds good. And then click OK. Now we've got a new image here. And if you come over here, as you can see, it's already been unwrapped. But if it wasn't, you just hit UV, and I would use cube projection or just unwrap it basically. Set that. Oh, we'll use this one. I want to keep them separate. All right, so here's your UV map right there. Now, once you've got this, you're pretty much ready to begin baking. So, one other thing you have to do is you have to give it a material. It has no material right now. This one does, this one doesn't. So we're going to give it a material. Now, the material doesn't really matter what it is. You can use a BDSF principled node, or you may use the diffuse if you want. But the important thing is you want to give it an image texture. Boom. Look at that image texture. And you also want to add a UV map. Go ahead and connect the UV map to the image texture from UV to vector. All right. Do not connect the image texture to the rest of your node group. Make sure that if you did not make a new image, you make one now, or select the same image you want to bake to, which is going to be our diffuse map tutorial. And then over here, click on From Instancer. And finally, also very important, activate the diffuse map tutorial image node by clicking on it. You want to make sure that it is highlighted and it wants to be, you want to put it on the object that you are baking to, not from. So last step is make sure that they take up the same space. Now, I've been able to bake without doing this at times, but other times my bakes come out black. So this may be part of the problem, is that the two do have to inhabit the same space. So go ahead and maybe send them back to their origin, but make sure they're basically in the same space. So you've got your low poly highlighted, taking up the same space as your high poly one. It has its image texture. It's not been saved or anything. And that UV node is set to UC instancer. Then finally, click on the diffuse map. Now you're ready to go into your render property. Make sure that you are set to cycles. Eevee does not have a bake option. Cycles, quickly throw up your favorite settings. You do not need to bake at 1024 samples. So we're just going to do 128. Boom. Set your favorite denoiser. Make sure all your other settings are good. And come down to the bake setting. The bake setting is one that, you want to make sure that you choose the bake type combined. It should be pre-selected. You want all of these checked, they should be pre-selected. But this is the one that's actually not selected. And you want to make sure you select this. Selected to active. We'll get to that in a minute. Then your extrusion. Now, and your max ray distance. Extrusion is if your meshes are a little short or don't quite extend up to the complicated geo you have on your other model, you want to extend it. And this is what you use for that. So giving it a rough idea of like if you have a meter cube like I do and just a few extra centimeters, maybe you only want to do a tenth of a meter, 20th of a meter to make sure you get it all Your ray should also be around a meter or so if you're matching up their sizes, but you can go further. This is a ray that will be used from the object to trace the textures onto the other object. Not exactly certain how that works, but set it between 0.2 and 1, higher if you need to, if your models are really disproportionate. You may have a big model that you also want to lower the poly on, but you also want to make it smaller. Then make sure that the ray distance reaches it. So here we go. Got everything set up, and now we should be able to hit bake almost. Last thing we want to do is our selection process. First, pick your high poly object. Pick your low poly, or basically make the low poly object the primary. And something else that you may want to do before that, if you haven't already done it, is set up your lighting. Diffuse baking works off of the lighting in the scene. So if your model is not lit, it won't show up. Detail, the color. And you want also to maybe add an HDMI for some ambient lighting, put in a floor plane for some ambient occlusion, what have you. But make sure that your model is lit and it's lit the way you want to. You could always try rendering it first to see if it looks good. Luckily, we don't care, so we're just going to go ahead and bake this bad boy. Got everything set up, and we're going to cross our fingers and hope it works. Let's give it a shot. Badoo. Look at that. No errors. So here we are. We've got our UV map over here. As you can see, it's filled with color. Look at that. All right. Now we want to save this map. So go over here, save as, and that's a very good name for it, the diffuse map tutorial. So we're going to name it that. We're going to save this image. Boom. Now let's move our object out of the way. Grab this, and you go ahead and throw that right in there. Boom. Look at that. So there's your detailed color. Remember, this was 2000, but it was only 32 samplings. Now, let's set this little bad boy aside. Make a new, call this the normal map. Make it a 2048 again. Alpha's on. Generate a blank image. Now we've got our image. Here's what we do. Go ahead and take this and replace it with the normal map. Pretty much every step is the same. Grab this, put it back at the cursor. Okay. You make sure that you've got your normal map separate from anything else in the scene. UV map from instancer. This is highlighted. Everything looks good, exactly like it did. Cubes are aligned, exactly like they were. Come over here to the render properties and scroll down to it should still be on cycles. Slide down here to the bake area. Make sure that you've got your ray and extrusion set. But up here, instead of combined, you're going to switch it to normal. A diffuse map is your color. A normal map is more like a displacement map. I'm not exactly certain how far it extrudes or what sort of math it uses. It's different than a bump map, but I don't know how deeply different the two are. But a diffuse map does not map color. It creates geometry or the illusion of geometry on the surface through the use of the red, blue, and green channels being mapped to the XYZ axes. That's why you're going to see it look really cool, all purpley and colorful like a rainbow. So we got this set to normal. You're going to see under influence, it sets up as space, and you have swizzle. To be honest, I'm still not certain what they mean by swizzle. I will find it out. And you have the channels plus X, plus Y, and plus Z, which correspond to your RGB, green and blue. And I use tangent. There may be cases you'd want to use an object, but from what I hear, using my object means when the light is cast on the diffuse map, it doesn't work if the camera is moving or the light is moving, one or the other. A diffuse map is a very interesting map in that it predicts edges and ridges in your surface, and bump map does this too. And as a light plays across it, it dynamically shifts the shading, the level of gamma in these pixels, so that it looks like it's three-dimensional. Light slides across the surface or around the edge of a ring, but it's really just texturing. It's not actual geometry, but it looks really cool, and it can save you a lot of memory, a lot of heartache, if you can just texture a low poly model with something with a high level texture. Okay, so got everything together. We make sure, yep, they're in the same place. We're gonna pick our geo model, the high poly one. We're gonna pick our low poly one. We're gonna click bake. See you in a minute. Let's look at this. 2 boxes. You got this one here, which is our low poly model, and you have this one here. And now you have the normal map. As you see, it's real pretty. Look at all them beautiful, pretty colors. And that's mapping the red, blue, and green this way and that. This will project off of each of these faces. As you can see, each face has been mapped where it should be UV'd, and each one is different. So let's save this one as well. So it's good to save them just in case. Normal map tutorial. You got this little bad boy here. take this one and let's go ahead and grab another one of these. And we want to copy our textures file. We're gonna need that. One is gonna be the normal, one is gonna be the diffuse. That's the normal, and we'll make this one the diffuse. Plug the diffuse into the base color. Not bad. Go over here. Make sure that you set your material in case you have any special texture effects you want, like transparency. Make sure you got transparency turned on. I'm just going to set it for displacement bump under a surface. And then you're going to take your normal image, put it through a normal map, and then you're going to take the normal map and you're going to plug it into the normal of the BSDF. Now you'll see that there is some, as I go back and forth, you can see on these, they're actually being tilted. Here it is without the diffuse. Right? I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so this is the first step of baking. What we're going to do is we're going to take our Sims, these feet here, bring that in. Let's save this. Untitled 1. Good job. All right, we're going to open neighborhood friendly. Basically, how you import model. We're going to grab the ugly shooling. Here she is. Now, I notice that I'm using 3.1.2, not 2.76, but you need 2.76 in order for it to save the package and convert it. It uses Blender 2.76 to actually convert it into a useful package, but you do not have to edit in 2.76. You can edit in 3.12 as long as you avoid doing things that wouldn't be available in the Blender of that time. Feels like years ago. You can grab her foot. You can very quickly see that it's detachable. So you can separate them into 2 feet and do a realistic mesh on them. Or you can just do what I did. Grab yourself a sphere. I usually separate the feet too, because that makes it easier. But if you do separate the feet, don't forget to put them back on in the right way. We got our foot here. You're going to catch the ball. Looks like some sort of weird soccer game. But what we're going to do is we're going to put this around her foot. Now, there's several ways you can do this. This is the way I'm trying right now. So around her foot, and we're going to hit la 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 shrink wrap. There you go. Now, if you look, you can take this right here. Oh, I also recommend doing this. I'm going to switch this to wire real quick so we can see what we're doing. You find that under the object properties. Just scroll down until you get to visibility and sleeping viewport display. Now, once you're in here, you can go and you can grab her feet, edit them if you are so inclined. There you go. Now you just put the platform under there, the heel, right? Very simple objects. Okay. We'll use this right here. Apology there. Now we got a little bit more, but that's okay. And then you can just here and make your other parts. There we go. Now we've got this like little slipper thing here. Okay. And you can go ahead and apply your shrink wrap. And voila, you've got a shoe, right? You can easily retopologize it. You clean up your mesh. Want to clean up, but we'll give it a little more juice. There we go. Clean up your mesh, and then you can apply the texture to it. Should work just like the shoe as a low poly model. Just bake right over to it. And there you go. That's how you get them into Sims. Then when you're done, I'll show you the export and import from the Sims later, but you're going to go through the steps of importing it from the blend file that I'll have in another video. I believe that's all for today. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me, and thank you for watching.